If it's happening in professional wrestling, we're breaking it down. The matches, the moments, the rumors, and yes, even the hot takes. This is Pro Wrestling Focus. No nonsense, no wasted motion, just pure wrestling talk. Now, here's your host, Cody Springer.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Pro Wrestling Focus. And today, we're going to be talking about Hulk Hogan. As you guys know, yesterday, Hulk Hogan passed away at the age of 71 from cardiac arrest. Emergency crews were called to his Clearwater Beach home just before 10 a.m., and despite attempts to revive him, Hogan was pronounced dead at Morton Plant Hospital just after 11 a.m. No foul play, no scandal, just the final curtain call for one of the most polarizing figures in wrestling history. Now let me be real with y'all, because that's what we do here. I never liked Hulk Hogan, the person. As a character, sure, he helped put wrestling on the map. But as a man, that's where the conversation changes. He was full of lies. He was a backstage politician to the highest degree. And the racist comments from that sex tape, yeah, those are burned into my brain. I don't care about the tape itself. I care about the hate in his voice when he thought nobody was listening. And yet, I still feel something when I saw the news. Maybe it's sympathy for his family, for Nick, for Brooke, for Sky. Maybe it's the surreal feeling that someone so larger than life could actually die. Or maybe it's the fact that for all the terrible things he did, Hulk Hogan still meant something to millions of people. He was the guy for a generation. Without Hogan, wrestling doesn't blow up in the 80s. We don't get WrestleMania as we know it. We don't get that explosion of pop culture crossover. He wasn't just a wrestler. He was an era. And as conflicted as I feel about him, I'm going to be honest with you today. I debated even covering this until I watched Good Mike Works' video. Shout out to Greg Morgan. He said something that stuck with me. Be honest about how you feel. So that's what I'm going to do. No sugarcoating, no fake tributes, just truth. This is the Hulk Hogan episode. The good, the bad, the uncomfortable, and everything in between. Let's talk about it. Before we go any further, I want to address something personal. Something from way back in the day. I had a YouTube channel in 2014 called Wrestling Commentaries with CS. And if you've been rocking with me for that long, bless you, because those were some raw, unfiltered, speaking to the phone at 2 a.m. type videos. No production value, no script, just vibes and borderline slander. And on that channel, I made a 20-minute video bashing Hulk Hogan. I mean, bashing him. I dragged that man for his relationships with Macho Man Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior. I accused him of lying about making peace with Warrior before he died. I said it was Hogan trying to rewrite history, trying to be the hero in someone else's final chapter, but I was wrong. Dead wrong. The truth is, Warrior and Hogan did make peace. It was on camera, it was real, it was heartfelt, and it was before Warrior passed. I spoke out of turn without knowing the full story, and it's taken me 11 years to come out and say this plainly. I apologize. I was 23 years old when I made that video, just a loudmouth kid with strong opinions and zero fact-checking. Now I'm 34, I've grown up, I've seen more of life, and I've learned when to talk and when to shut the hell up. That was a moment when I should have done the latter. I also poked fun at Hogan and Linda's divorce. specifically the people that they were dating at the time. I thought it was funny that Linda was dating a 19-year-old and that Hogan's girlfriend looked a lot like Brooke. And I turned that into a punchline. But in hindsight, that was their personal business. Divorce makes people do strange things. People heal in their own weird ways. And it wasn't my place to be the guy throwing stones from a YouTube soapbox. So yeah, I said some ignorant, unnecessary things in that video. But here's the difference between 23-year-old me and now at 34. I'll own it. I'll take accountability for it. I can look back and say, damn, I missed the mark, and not make any excuses. That's growth. If that video resurfaces, how I think it's still on YouTube to this day, if it does, I stand by my apology just as much as I stood by the rant, because that's part of evolving as a man and as a voice in this space. So yeah, here's to doing better, speaking smarter, and owning your past. Let's keep going. Now let's talk about the controversy, the one that forever changed the way a lot of us looked at Hulk Hogan. In July of 2015, transcripts came out from a 2007 sex tape. Yes, that one, where Hogan was caught saying some absolutely disgusting, racist shit. This wasn't some taken out of context moment. This wasn't a misunderstood joke. This was raw, unfiltered racism caught on tape. In those recordings, Hogan dropped the N-word multiple times, talked about being a racist to a point, and expressed anger and disgust over the idea of his daughter Brooke dating a black man. He even said something like, if you're gonna fuck with an N-word, get you a rich one. Like, what? That's not just racist, that's strategically racist. That's layers of ignorance baked into one sentence. Let's talk about the fallout. WWE didn't waste any time. They scrubbed Hogan from the website, terminated his contract, and pulled him from the Hall of Fame listings. He was erased like a glitch in the Matrix. Social media lit up. The fans turned on him. Wrestlers distanced themselves, and rightly so. That kind of language, that kind of mindset, there's no place for it. Not in wrestling, not in society, nowhere. Hogan did what you would expect. He issued a public apology. He said it was unacceptable and not who I am. But come on, man, the sincerity, it wasn't there. You could smell the PR spin from across the room. He tried to frame it like it was something he learned from his upbringing. Like racism was some kind of hand-me-down shirt he accidentally wore in public. But nah, bro, you owned those words. You sat in them. You meant them. And when WWE brought him back in 2018, reinstated him into the Hall of Fame, and gave him another shot, the locker room didn't forget. Black wrestlers didn't just move on. They weren't feeling it. I don't blame them. That apology he gave backstage reportedly felt more like a PR workshop than actual remorse. Like, hey guys, sorry I got caught. Hope this doesn't mess up the merch sales. And even as recently as this year, back in January, the Raw on Netflix premiere, that's his last WWE appearance. And he got booed because real fans don't forget. And a lot of us, we didn't forgive either. Now, let me speak for myself. When I first heard these comments, man, I was pissed. I already knew about the sex tape. I knew that the whole Bubba the Love Sponge stuff, that was gross enough on its own. But then the racist audio came out, and I remember thinking that this dude just nosedived his entire legacy from 20,000 feet in the air. I mean, yeah, Hogan's been a politician in the business forever, always working angles behind the scenes, but This wasn't business. This was character. This was who he really was in that moment. And it made me sick to hear. Honestly, I think he was mad and bitter because Brooks' music career was going nowhere. And he thought dating a rapper was the wrong move. That's where his toxic thoughts came spilling out. But rather than keeping it to himself, he let the ugliest part of his soul do the talking. And it came out loud and clear. So yeah, I was disappointed, disgusted, angry. Not just because of what he said, but because he represented so much of what wrestling fans loved growing up. And to find out that a person who was a childhood hero for many had this much hatred bottled up inside, that's not just a fall from grace. That's a crash landing into irrelevance. This wasn't just a bad look. This was legacy shattering. This was reputation suicide. And no amount of apologies or photo ops can erase what was said when the cameras weren't supposed to be rolling. All right, I want to take a few minutes to talk about the many lies that Hulk Hogan has told over the years. And let me be real. We all know wrestling is a business built on embellishment. It's part of the game. But there's a big difference between hyping up a match and just making shit up left and right for clout, legacy, or flat out ego. And with Hogan, man, we're talking Hall of Fame levels of lying. Let's start with the big one, steroids. For years, Hogan swore up and down he never touched them. Told fans, told kids, told the media, nope, not me, brother. Then boom, under oath in Vince McMahon's steroid trial in the 90s. He had to admit he did use steroids. Why? Because lying under oath is perjury, and even the Hulkster couldn't leg drop his way out of that one. Then there's the infamous tombstone piledriver situation. Hogan said The Undertaker broke his neck at Survivor Series 91, but you watch the footage, his head never even touched the mat. Undertaker, being the pro he is, protected Hogan, but Hogan lied. And what's worse is it made Taker question himself. That's fucked. You don't mess with a man's conscience like that, especially when all he was trying to do was keep you safe. And it doesn't stop there. Hogan also claimed that after he body slammed Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3, he tore every muscle in his back. Every one? Come on, man. Just say your back hurt and move on. We don't need this Marvel origin story. Then you've got the Metallica lie, saying he was almost their bassist. Lars and James were like, we don't even know this dude. And this isn't some small thing. This was Hogan trying to place himself into rock history like he just forgot to show up one day and missed being a legend in two industries. It's delusion. But wait, it gets weirder. Hogan once claimed he wrestled 400 days in a year by jumping time zones between Japan and the US. Brother, I know kayfabe is sacred, but math still exists. Unless you discovered a wormhole in the Tokyo Dome, that's not how calendars work. Then there's the whole NWO story. Hogan said it was his idea from the jump and that the original members were supposed to be him, Brutus Beefcake, and the Nasty Boys. You ask Kevin Nash, he'll tell you straight. It was Bischoff's brainchild, not Hogan's. Not even close. And man, the Bret Hart lies. Hogan said Bret stole his catchphrase and that he was the one who told Bret about Owen's death. That's disgusting. You don't lie about that. You don't insert yourself into someone's personal tragedy just to sound more important. That ain't just selfish, it's just straight up gross. Hogan can go fuck himself for that one. Same with what he said about Mick Foley. Called him a stuntman who prostituted his body. That's disrespectful as hell to a guy who sacrificed everything for the business. Foley made millions of people feel something. Pain, heart, courage. And Hogan tries to minimize all that, like he's above it. Get out of here. And let's not forget the Shelton Benjamin situation. Recently, while hyping up his new wrestling promotion, Hogan misidentified Shelton as Benjamin Shelton twice. Shelton clapped back, and rightfully so, but the issue wasn't just the same, it was the history. Shelton pointed out that Hogan's locker room apology in 2018 after the racism scandal, it didn't feel like remorse. It felt like damage control, a don't get caught speech. And Shelton wasn't alone either. MVP and other black wrestlers shared the same sentiment, that Hogan wasn't sorry for what he did, just sorry that it cost him his spot. And now, here's the most recent one. He claimed that he was Brock Lesnar's first opponent after Brock left the UFC. Come on, man. That match happened in 2002, 10 years before Lesnar even went to the UFC, let alone came back from it. Lesnar's first opponent after UFC was John Cena, and Hogan wasn't even in WWE at the time. He was in TNA. But hey, when the truth doesn't make you the hero, just make up a version where you are, right? He also said that Elvis Presley was a Hulkamaniac, even though that Elvis died before Hogan ever debuted. Like, what? At this point, Hogan's whole public persona feels like a high school kid telling tall tales in the lunchroom just to stay relevant. The problem is, these lies aren't harmless. Some of them hurt people. Some of them rewrite history in ways that disrespect the truth, the business, and the people who actually lived it. And yeah, maybe some of it is delusion. Maybe some of it is ego. But when your lies make others question themselves, when they disrespect tragedies, and when they bury the truth so you can shine a little brighter, you deserve to get called out. Hogan's lies finally caught up to him, and at this point, they've choked out whatever was left of his legacy that he was trying to protect. Let's talk about Hulk Hogan's run in TNA wrestling. Now, when Hogan came to TNA in 2010, there was this weird mix of buzz and dread in the air. On paper, bringing in Hulk Hogan, the Hulk Hogan, felt like a big swing for the fences. The kind of move you make when you want headlines. And look, TNA was no small fry at the time. They weren't WWE, sure, but they had carved out this little solid niche for themselves with a talented roster, a unique presentation, and that famous six-sided ring. There was a real identity there. And when Hogan showed up, that identity started slipping away. Let's start with the expectations. Hogan comes in right alongside Eric Bischoff, and the thought was these two could help elevate TNA's profile. Dixie Carter was banking on Hogan's name value. She treated him well, paid him even when he was out getting surgeries, took care of the guy. But Hogan didn't return that energy. He got creative control again, a red flag from the jump. And it didn't take long before the show started becoming more about him than the talent who built the place. Jeff Jarrett even called it out years later, said Hogan used Dixie, manipulated her, and honestly, I believe it. You could see it week to week. TNA started morphing into WCW 2.0. Hell, they even tried to resurrect the NWO again. Changed the ring back to 4 sides like it was some upgrade. It was like they were ashamed of what made TNA different. The Immortal storyline, remember that? That heel faction where Hogan, Bischoff, and a bunch of their favorites ran roughshod over the roster? That was the tone. And of course, Brooke Hogan had to be shoehorned in there too, because Hogan never met a spotlight that he didn't try to drag his family into. One of the biggest missed opportunities during this time was that instead of elevating guys like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, James Storm, Christopher Daniels, and Abyss, Hogan and Bischoff just kept retreading the same names from the 90s. You had a golden opportunity to build something new, and instead they smothered it in reruns. And here's what really pissed me off. Whenever Hogan would do interviews or go on talk shows, never once did he promote TNA. Not once. It was like he was embarrassed by it. Like TNA was this dirty little secret, and it was obvious. AJ Styles even said it back then. Called Hogan out for being ashamed to even talk about the company publicly. And honestly, I think AJ was right. Because after it all went south, what did Hogan do? Blame TNA. Blamed Dixie. Blamed everyone but himself. But let's be real. He walked in the door, took the money, took the power, and then slowly sucked the life out of what made that company special. And then he dipped. Now look, I grew up on Hogan just like everybody else. I know the guy is a legend, but his TNA run, that was a case study in ego over value. TNA didn't need Hulk Hogan. It needed someone who believed in the future of wrestling, not someone obsessed with reliving their glory days. The bottom line is that TNA was cool before Hogan got there. It was on the cusp of being something different, and then it became all about him, and the company never really fully recovered from that. Let's get into Hulk Hogan's legacy. One of the biggest names in the history of pro wrestling, and one of the most complicated. Now look, before we talk about the scandals, cringe interviews, the reality TV fallout, all of that, we've got to start with this truth. If Hulk Hogan never existed, wrestling may not be what it is today. And I mean that. In the 1980s, Hogan was wrestling. Pure and simple. The guy came in with that red and yellow, the bandana, the handlebar mustache, the say your prayers, eat your vitamins catchphrases, and it just clicked. Hulkamania ran wild, and suddenly, wrestling wasn't just something you caught on the local TV channel. It was a movement. It was action figures, cartoons, lunchboxes, video games. He took what Vince McMahon was building with the WWE, at the time the WWF, and launched it into the stratosphere. He headlined 7 of the first 8 WrestleManias. And I don't care how many times they replay the Slam. That match with Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3, that moment is burned into history. That crowd, that energy, it felt mythic. And then, just when we thought Hogan was done making history, he reinvented himself as Hollywood Hogan, the NWO, the black and white, the slow, arrogant strut, the heel turn that nobody saw coming. He helped WCW overtake WWE during the Monday Night Wars. I lived through it. It was electric. It was gritty. It was real. And Hogan was at the center of it again. He helped create 2 of the most iconic eras in wrestling history. That's not opinion. That's just facts. Now here's where it gets tricky. Because Hogan, the character, the wrestler, the draw, the showman, that guy, respect. No question. But Terry Bollea, the man behind Hogan, that's a whole different conversation. We can't ignore the dark chapters. The steroid trial, where he got up in court and admitted under oath that he had been using steroids for years, despite denying it to fans. Then there's the Gawker sex tape mess, and of course, the worst of it, like I mentioned earlier, the racist comments. That audio leak didn't just hurt Hogan, it hurt fans. It made a lot of us question what kind of person was behind the guy that we grew up idolizing. He got pulled from the Hall of Fame, got scrubbed off the WWE website for a while, and even though he was eventually reinstated, that stain never really went away. And it shouldn't. Those words hurt a lot of people. And there are folks in the business who still haven't forgiven him for that. And I can't blame them. So yeah, Hogan's legacy is complicated. Some fans separate the performer from the man, others can't. I get both sides. But I'll say this, for me personally, if Hogan never existed, I may not be sitting here talking wrestling with you right now. He was the first guy who made wrestling feel massive, larger than life. He helped create this whole world that I fell in love with. So I give him credit for that, always. But Terry Bollea, that's where I draw a line. I didn't like what he did. I didn't like what he said. And just because someone was a legend in the ring doesn't mean they get a free pass outside of it. So yeah, I respect Hulk Hogan for what he did in the business, but I won't pretend his story doesn't come with baggage. He helped shape pro wrestling, but he also made some serious missteps that are a part of his legacy, whether he likes it or not. That's the reality. That's how I see it. And there you have it. That's everything. My honest thoughts and feelings about the man, the myth, the massive, complicated legacy that is Hulk Hogan. Look, it's not easy to wrap a neat little bow around someone like Hogan. He was the guy, the face of professional wrestling for decades. Without his larger-than-life presence, without the boom of Hulkamania, without the NWO flip, the Mania main events, the brother promos, and all that ridiculous flexing, I don't know if I'd even be here right now doing this show, talking wrestling with all of you. If Hogan was your hero growing up, I'm not going to knock that. I won't. But I know this hits different. For some of you, this is devastating. For others, you've been done with him for a long time. Maybe you never came back after the controversies, or maybe you always separated the man from the performer. Then there's folks like me somewhere in the middle, torn between appreciation and frustration. Grateful for the impact, annoyed by the antics. But no matter where you land, here's the one truth we can't avoid. The man known as Terry Bollea is gone. So for that, my sincere condolences go out to his family, to those who loved him, to the fans still feeling this one in their chest. And even through all the mess, I'll say this: rest in peace, Hulk. You were flawed, you were larger than life, and you changed the game forever.
I just love the business. There's nothing else like it. It's just magic. It's the most exhilarating experience you'll ever have.
I am a real American. Fight for the rights of every man. I am a real American. Fight for what's right. Fight for your life.
I'm gonna be fighting for all my Hulkamaniacs. What are you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you?
Hulk Hogan defines sports entertainment. Hulk Hogan is sports entertainment.
With Hulkamania running wild, I feel like 100 Supermen.
The bronze physique, the 24-inch pythons, the bandana.
The training, saying your prayers, and eating your vitamins is definitely the right way to live.
Power, personality, persona. He was a box office attraction, a global icon. But before all that, he was Terry. In 1953, Terry Gene Bollea was born in Augusta, Georgia. He loved sports, and he played the bass guitar while chasing his musical dreams.
1976, I was playing in a rock and roll band. I said, I'm quitting. I'm going to be the greatest professional wrestler that ever lived.
He was first known under a mask as the Super Destroyer in 1977. He made his WWE debut in 1979.
Hulk Hogan!
You are looking at the new king of professional wrestling.
Hogan's allure grew from Shea Stadium to Hollywood, where he got his big break in Rocky III.
Looking at the size of your arms, I don't believe this.
I know sooner or later my time is gonna come.
Then this, at Madison Square Garden on January 23rd, 1984, the day Hulkamania was born.
He dropped the big leg on him. He got out. History made in Madison Square Garden. Hulkamania is here. I feel the energy. Hulkamania is running worldwide.
Hulk Hogan was woven into pop culture.
Mr. Hulk Hogan.
He was a slice of Americana.
Right here on MTV, just being here with all the rock and rollers.
Rock and wrestling, the Grammys, Saturday Night Live,
Mr. T and Hulk Hogan.
and the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania.
Unbelievable pandemonium here in the garden.
Then in 1987 at WrestleMania 3, Hogan did the unthinkable.
The irresistible force meeting the immovable object. Look at this. It's greatest moment ever in my life, as far as my career. It has to be that WrestleMania, without a doubt.
His rivalries became stuff of legend. Roddy Piper, Macho Man Randy Savage, the Ultimate Warrior. By the early 90s, Hollywood came calling again. There were TV series and more movies before a shocking arrival in WCW. From the ultimate hero, the Hulkster, to the worst villain, Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
You can call this the new world order of wrestling, brother.
New world order. He turned the business upside down.
Hulk Hogan, Hulk, come on out here.
Here's the NWO. There's no yellow. There's no red. He's wearing black. NWO for life, brah.
Hogan came home in 2002. And there was only one man to mark the occasion and match his stardom.
History in the making now. This is a WrestleMania moment. Many in the crowd chanting for The Rock. Many in the crowd chanting for Hogan. Oh my God. What you gonna do, Rock? Hollywood Hulk Hogan give you all he had.
3 years later, in 2005, Hogan was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame.
Andre the Giant kicked my ass every time I got in the ring with him. He developed something in me called character, a love for this business that'll never die.
In the years that followed, Hogan never left the spotlight. Across decades and so many changes to the business,
I never knew 30 years later I would have a love affair with the maniacs of Madison Square Garden in this town like I have.
somehow Hogan's charisma and connection to the audience always remained. While his steps slowed, his work ethic never did, and his influence never wavered.
Run wild on you!
He loved his fans.
Thanks for making my childhood, buddy.
From young to old, Hogan was the ultimate hero. Even till the end. On July 24th, 2025, surrounded by family and friends, Terry Hulk Hogan Bollea passed away. He was 71 years old. But Hulkamania will live forever.
You develop a love for this business. It's something that's in your spirit. It's something that you can never lose. It's something that will stay with you till the day you die. As it will with me.
When you get a dose of Hulkamania, it is the ultimate natural high. It's something that you can't shake. It's something that makes you shake in your seat. And it's something that you can't beat, Daddy. And Hulkamania will live forever.
Gone but not forgotten, the incredible Hulk Hogan.